Should juveniles get away with lighter sentences in horrific gang rape cases? Joining me now, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, President Janata Party, who's taken that matter to the courts. Purnima Advani, former chairperson of the National Commission for Women. Amod Khan, former DGP Arunachal Pradesh, who runs the Delhi Protection, he's the chairperson of the Delhi Commission for Protection of Child and General Secretary of the NGO Prayas, and Anant Asthana, lawyer and expert in juvenile justice. Appreciate all of you joining us. Dr. Swamy, you know, the court has gone strictly by the law. At the end of the day, the court cannot go by popular rage. They have to go by the law. And the law very clearly says that if I'm below the age of 18, then I must be treated as a juvenile. Why do you want that law to be changed?
Well, I think the law has to be interpreted, and the Supreme Court has done it many times. In 1981, the law was that only the aggrieved party and the defendant can approach a court. Then the court said, no, in public interest, anybody can approach the court. The same thing in the Gujarat. They said any outsider can intervene and set the law into motion, or even be a complainant.
Yes.
So today we need to know whether this 18 years, which was set, in my opinion, arbitrarily, because it was not recommended by any UN commission or the Beijing rules. It is not part of our traditional law, which is in the IPC, which puts it at 12 years. Nor is it international practice, because in England it is 10 years, America it is 12 years. So therefore, I would like the courts to interpret whether this is the correct version.
Dr. Swamy, the law is very clear. Where is the space for interpretation?
No,
I mean, tomorrow, let's say a 15-and-a-half-year-old, tomorrow if a 15-and-a-half-year-old commits a gang rape, will you say that the age of, that the juvenile age should be brought down to 15? Can we look at individual cases to make general rules?
I'm not making individual cases, but I am asking the larger impact. Supposing Kasab was under 18, would you have given him 3 years and sent him home?
Yes.
Tomorrow it will be a fair game for Pakistan to select terrorists who are below 18 and make them come to India. I don't think we should be insensitive to the fact that a juvenile crime of stealing a bicycle and this kind of rape should be treated. So
you're saying exceptional circumstances demand exceptional demand exceptions to the law. You're calling for the interpretation of the law, given the exceptional circumstances involved.
It's not my interpretation. It is the UN Commission's view that you have to look at the emotional and mental maturity along with the age factor, and somehow this has been given the go-by.
Okay, let me bring in Anant Asthana for a moment, because you're a lawyer who deals with these cases. Do you believe that there should be exceptions? Because as Dr. Swamy says, globally that does happen. In Britain, for example, people look at the gravity of the crime, not necessarily on the age of the accused.
Yes, see, a bad case always ends up in a bad law, right? So playing politics or creating a moral panic based on this case will not do any good to the children of this country. The age was raised from 16 to 18, and there was a cogent thinking, and there was a huge process.
Dr. Swamy is saying globally the practice is to look at the gravity of the crime, not necessarily have a fixed age bar.
No, it's not that simplistic, which Dr. Swamy is trying to say. If you look at the foreign practices, there are particular circumstances applicable to those countries. Let us not import those circumstances to this country. Let us talk about this country which has a huge population of children below 18. We cannot afford to have a law so regressive.
You are calling it a regressive law. For a moment, you know, let me take that to Purnima Advani. Purnima Advani, Justice Verma, in his report says, and he met many activists, and he said all of them believe that the age should not be lowered from 18 to 16. He went on to say the Juvenile Justice Act has failed miserably to protect the children in the country. We cannot hold the child responsible for a crime before first providing to him her basic rights given to him by the Indian Constitution. Your response?
You see, Rajdeep, this is a very grey area, the age of 16 to 18.
Yes.
On the one hand, when such heinous crimes are committed by those between 16 to 18, we feel that no, the law should not be more lenient to them. But again, by and large, knowing the way of child development and child psychology, oftentimes it has been felt. I feel the age of 16 to 18 should be kept open to judicial discretion, and if a heinous crime is committed by a person who belongs to this age group, he should be dealt with very seriously. Otherwise, we could have dangerous situations where 16 to 18 get the message that they can get away with even murders. And law has to keep pace with the dynamics of society. As we see that...
Let me just bring in Amod Khan. Amod Khan, respond to what you are hearing. Between 16 to 18, there must be greater judicial discretion. As someone who's argued for juveniles to be reformed rather than being treated as criminals of the worst kind, how do you respond given the sentiments that exist, particularly with the Delhi gang rape case?
No, I think probably people are not understanding the legal implications. See, the law is very clear that there are already distinctions in the law. There are no, in any offence which carries less than 7 years of punishment, the treatment is very different. In the offences which carry punishment more than 7 years, it's a different kind of treatment. There is already a separate provision, section 15 of the Act, talks about 7 different types of dispositions, which you might call punishment. The last one being sending a child to the special home for 3 years.
Yes.
But section 16, there is already a provision for 16 to 18 years. It's a differential kind of treatment. A child in the age of 16 to 18 years can be kept separately at a safe place, can be separated, and there is a provision.
But only for 3 years. Amod Khan, only for 3 years. The point which is being made by the Swamis of the world is that in 3 years, this boy could be back on the street.
Can I clarify a point? I'll
yes.
just point to clarifying a point that in India, compared to all other countries, Mr. Swamy is talking about, others are talking about. Let me inform you that the children constitute 42% of population,
yes.
and their contribution to crime is just about 1.5%. 1.5% of the total crime are committed by the children, whereas they constitute 42% of population. Secondly, in 2011 in India, only 33,000 crimes were committed by the children, of which not more than 3,000 to 4,000 were the heinous or serious crimes. As against that, let me inform you, 11.5 lakh crimes were committed by the children in USA, which has population 1/4 of India. Now let me inform you, let us think it very coolly.
Between 16 and 18, should there be a separate rule for 16 and 18? I think that's the argument being made. Do we treat them as juveniles?
There's already a separate provision.
There's already a separate provision.
There's already a yes, section 16 is clearly separate provision is there. A child in 16 to 18 can be kept at a different place. And let me inform you, the major problem is that we have not yet implemented the law. The law is to be implemented. We have not understood the provisions of law.
Dr. Swamy, respond.
The law first.
Dr. Swamy, respond that there is already a provision that you can be kept in a separate reform home. Shouldn't the purpose of justice also include reform, or is it only retribution?
Well, in the case of such a heinous crime,
yes,
the victims have also a right. And this girl, for no fault of hers, she was a very bright girl. She was doing very well in the exams. She's going to be trained to be a psychotherapist. She is pounced upon in this way. The medical report is very clear. The brutality that was put on in addition to rape, which led to her death. She has a right, and this has a social implication. All the young girls of Delhi are today frightened. Parents are frightened. It's almost on par with the terrorist crime, you see. So we have to make a distinction between juveniles stealing bicycles and those who engage in this kind of rape.
Amod Khan, respond to that. Amod Khan, respond. We have to make a distinction between a juvenile who steals a bike and one who's involved in a gang rape.
I repeat that less than 7 years of punishment. If a child commits an offence of that variety, there is already a separate provision.
But he can still be out on the streets in 3 years. No. He can still be out on the streets in 3 years.
First of all, can I inform you that even for adult offences, there is something called Probation of Offenders Act. And the first time offenders are being let off. Even those who commit murders are being let off. The adult criminals. They are being kept in the open jail. Why is it that we are targeting the child only? Why the child is being targeted? Do we mean to say, and agreeing with Mr. Subramanian Swamy, that we should create a system where only vengeance should prevail, that a child should be subjected to the criminal justice system. A child must be sent to prison.
You don't have your bleeding heart.
Sent to an ordinary court. I mean, that's not correct at all. That's not proper. There is a separate system of law and justice for the child, juvenile justice system, which is acknowledged universally.
Right.
Whether the child is 15 or 16 or 17 years doesn't matter.
Purnima Advani, is it about vengeance? Is this demand that the law be changed or that there be judicial discretion out of vengeance, or because you believe it will serve as a deterrent?
I think what is important is that it should serve as a deterrent. There is no question of vengeance. That way, whenever we impose a capital punishment in the case of a murder, one would say it's vengeance. It's not vengeance. It is that it should be a deterrent to others who would have otherwise committed that crime. And I think with the way the world is moving, more and more youngsters who are coming in and attempting to violate the law, it is very important that they should be kept in place, and that the deterrent impact of penalty must be very clear and known to them. This cannot happen if we still consider them.
Mr. Asthana, respond. Mr. Asthana, respond. Law cannot be a static. You cannot have law which does not change with the time.
I agree totally, but the judicial discretion in these kind of cases is not an answer to the juvenile crime prevention. We must understand how juvenile crime is going to be.
Are you saying it will have no deterrent effect?
See, deterrent does not work. How many words you need to be, said to you? Deterrent does not work. It has not worked anywhere.
So, Subramanian Swamy, deterrent, there is no deterrent effect even if you ask for a judgment. I mean, historically it's been seen, activists have based it on case studies in the past. Case studies have shown that despite the fact, even in the USA, where the judges are allowed more discretion, that has not stopped child crime.
No, there's no question of stopping or not stopping. You're actually advocating scrapping of the IPC and handing a whole thing over to Salvation Army. This is not a question that just because murders take place, therefore there should be no IPC. The question is, when somebody commits a crime which affects the rights of somebody else in a very grave way, leading to a loss of death, there has to be a retribution. Retribution is an essential part of any system, including religious system.
So are you saying that he must be subject to exactly the same punishment as the others? Is that what you are saying? Because he was involved in the crime?
He should be subject. He should be subject to a proportionate punishment. Whether it should be exact or not, that is for the judges to decide. But you can't be saying that you should be let off just as a juvenile with a bicycle thieving offense is concerned. So we have to have a sense of proportion. Where is the question of saying it doesn't work? Of course, if it doesn't work, then scrap the whole system. Let anybody kill anybody.
I have an advice.
Yes.
I have an advice from Mr. Swamy to go and meet Mr. John DeLilio. He was a professor who had coined the word super predator for the juvenile criminals in states. Now, when these cases have been decided, he has signed the amicus brief on behalf of juveniles. So, how an eminent professor who at that time coined the term has gone back? He has understood. Mr. Swamy is not understanding today the consequences of this.
You may not understand yourself. I've been a professor.
No, Dr. Swamy, this principle of proportion. No, hold on. Let's not make it personal. The proportionality principle, I think, is an important point. Sir, you're raising an important point. Dr. Swamy, you're raising an important point. Let me take that to Amod Khan. Amod Khan, this is an argument, and it's a popular argument. Even senior lawyers are voicing it, of proportionality. Crime and the punishment must have a sense of proportion. You cannot have someone getting away with 6 months and 3 years when the crime is of a heinous nature. Would you concede that that is where the law needs to relook possibly at the Juvenile Justice Act?
Am I speaking alive when I say that each one of us treat our children differently? Aren't they supposed to be treated differently? Below 18 years, a child doesn't have a right to vote, no right to property, no right to engagement of a lawyer, no right to marry, and no right to drive. He doesn't have rights at all below 18 years of age. Then are we going to subject him to the same system, criminal justice system, without these rights? How will he defend himself?
But you have a right to join the army.
But the proportionality question, should there be proportionality or not between crime and the punishment? Yes or no?
I'll just tell you one thing, that in the case of child, there is no question of proportionality. The child is to be dealt with differently in a reformist mode. And let me clarify, in Delhi we are making an experiment with 100 children. 100 juveniles, 20% of them happen to be in serious crimes like rape, murder, attempt to murder.
Yes.
And then they are coming out from various juvenile homes. And last 1 year we are treating these children, we find they are not committing any crimes at all. They are being reformed.
You're talking about justice being reformed versus retributive justice. Let me give that to Purnima Advani and Dr. Swamy. Purnima Advani, there's a battle between reform and retributive justice. Should we go in the direction of reform or should we look at retributive justice?
There is no question of a battle. Retributive justice has gone away long back. We are towards the age of reform and deterrence. What is important is to give a message to any person who intends to commit a crime that if he does, he's not going to be just left off because he's a juvenile.
Okay.
And therefore, I think a distinction needs to be drawn between those who are, we have to have a cut-off mark, so below 16, but between 16 to 18, there must be more serious introspection about the kind of penalty proportion to the seriousness of the crime that is being committed.
Dr. Swamy, let me give you the final word. Do you concede, Dr. Swamy, that in a civilized society, even a heinous crime like gang rape, do you believe an individual cannot be reformed? A 17-year-old cannot be reformed?
That's not a question of whether he can be reformed or not. The question is what effect it has on society. And I know that today, between 16 and 18, the heinous crimes committed in society are committed by, 65% are committed by the 16 and 18-year-olds in the society. So, therefore, we have to have a system where somebody has to pay for his action at some stage when the crime becomes very heinous.
Okay.
I am not saying that he can't be reformed if he stole a bicycle or he raided a canteen or something.
You're saying a rapist cannot be reformed. You're saying a gang rapist cannot be reformed.
Yes.
You believe he cannot be reformed, despite of what Amod Khan is saying?
I don't want to reform him.
You don't want to reform him?
I don't want to reform him. I don't want to reform. I want to make an example of him for the rest of the teenagers.
Okay, you want to make an example for him for the rest of the teenagers versus those who are arguing for reforming an individual. That really is at the core of this battle that our courts will have to decide on. But for now, Subramanian Swamy, Mr. Asthana, Purnima Advani and Amod Khan, appreciate your joining us on our talking point tonight.